Have you ever noticed that the moments you regret most aren't the times you fell down, but the times you didn't even step forward? You won't remember every stumble, but you will remember the doors you never opened, the words you swallowed, the life you postponed. Here's the quiet truth. Failure isn't what haunts people. Regret does. Not the bruise of trying and missing, but the ache of never trying at all. Carl Jung warned that the parts of ourselves we avoid don't vanish. They gather power in the dark. Avoid a challenge long enough and it starts to feel like fate. But fate is often just fear wearing a mask. Today is a line in the sand. On one side, the safe, shrinking life of maybe later. On the other, the honest, expanding life of I'll go and see. If you've felt paralyzed by the fear of failure, stay with me. By the end of this, you won't be fearless. You'll be something better, willing. Let's begin with a simple picture. A student sits with a blank page. Her idea is alive in her chest. She can almost hear it, but she hesitates. If she starts, she could discover she isn't good enough. If she waits, the idea remains perfect in her mind. So she waits. One day becomes a week, a month, a season. The idea goes quiet, not because it was wrong, but because it wasn't given a chance to be right. That's how regret is born, not in dramatic defeats, but in small daily avoidances. The email you don't send, the application you don't submit, the conversation you never start. Each one whispers, "Not today." One day you listen too long, and "not today" becomes your life. Jung described the shadow as everything we push away, our envy and pride, our fear and anger, but also our unlived gifts. Think about that. The same door that hides your fear hides your potential. When you refuse to risk failure, you're not protecting yourself, you're imprisoning yourself. You're locking away the very strength that grows only when tested. Why do we do this? Because failure threatens the story we like to tell about who we are. We don't fear the fall as much as we fear the mirror. What if I try and discover I'm ordinary? What if I try and they laugh? What if I try and it confirms my doubts? So we make a trade. We trade the sharp, short pain of failing for the dull, permanent weight of regret. We call it wisdom. We call it being realistic. But often it's just fear with good manners. Let me offer you a different way to see failure. Failure is not a verdict. It's a teacher. It's the tuition the universe charges for mastery. You don't get to skip the bill. You only choose when to pay it. Pay early, with small experiments and honest attempts, or pay later with a life that never found its edge. Consider another story. A young man wants to move to a new city and apprentice in a craft. Everyone around him says, "Be sensible." He listens. He stays. He gets a job that looks good on paper. He tells himself he'll try next year. 3 years pass. He's comfortable, respected, and numb. He looks at people who took the risk and feels two things at once: admiration and resentment. That mixture is a sign. Resentment is often regret in disguise. Here's the liberating shift. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the choice to move while afraid. If you wait for fear to disappear, you will wait forever. Action drains fear of its power. Avoidance feeds it. Jung believed growth requires integration, not pretending we're fearless, but inviting the fearful part into the conversation. Ask it questions. What are you protecting me from? What would happen if we tried and failed? What would happen if we never tried at all? When you actually answer, you'll notice something. The worst-case scenario is usually survivable. Embarrassment fades. Money can be earned again. Skill can be built. Reputation can be rebuilt. But time only moves in one direction. So let's get practical. If fear of failure has been steering your life, try this. First, turn goals into experiments. An experiment cannot fail. It can only produce data. I will publish one essay every Friday for 8 weeks and learn from the results. I will audition for 3 roles this season and study every note I receive. Data replaces drama. Curiosity replaces shame. Second, shrink the dragons. Big dreams grow big fears. Cut your dream into moves that fit inside a week. 1 phone call, 1 page, 1 hour of rehearsal. Win a week, then stack them. Third, practice micro-bravery. Every day, do one small thing you'd usually avoid. Ask a real question. Share a draft. Request feedback from someone who intimidates you. Tiny acts of courage are compound interest for the soul. Fourth, forgive yourself. You will make awkward, unfinished, imperfect things. That's not a flaw. That's the doorway. Begin anyway. Beginnings are never elegant. They're faithful. Fifth, run the anti-regret audit. Picture yourself at 70. Which choice will make that person proud? Which choice will make them shake their head? Let that future self vote today. Here's something counterintuitive. The more openly you fail, the less power failure has. People who build remarkable lives fail more than others. Not because they're reckless, but because they put themselves in the path of growth. They treat rejection as a normal cost of momentum. They move, learn, adjust, move again. Now pause with me for a moment. If you found value so far, and you want more deep dives into philosophy, psychology, and practical courage, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. If this episode is already pressing on a tender place in your life, share it with one person who needs a gentle push. Then come right back, because we're about to go deeper. Let's talk about identity. Many of us are attached to being the talented one, the reliable one, the smart one. When your identity is built on outcomes, failure feels like annihilation, so you avoid the risk that could threaten the label. But identity can be built on something sturdier, being the person who shows up, being the person who keeps promises to themselves, being the person who learns out loud. Imagine two paths. On the first path, you protect your image and keep your record clean. On the second path, you protect your growth and keep your progress real. Only one of those paths leads anywhere you haven't already been. Another story. A mid-career professional feels the slow burn of misalignment. The work is fine, the pay is fine, the calendar is full, but the meaning is thin. At night, they sketch ideas for a small practice, a craft, a service. They tell no one, they worry. What if I start and people think I've failed because I left something better? So they keep the sketches in a drawer. They become an expert at what they no longer love. That expertise becomes a cage. One day, a mentor asks a piercing question. If you woke up already embarrassed, already judged, already past the awkward part, what would you choose then? That question frees them. They realize it isn't the new path they fear. It's the first 12 months of being visibly new. So they design a year they can survive. A smaller apartment, a simpler lifestyle, a calendar built around learning. They begin. It's messy and it's holy. They're alive again. Jung would call this individuation, the slow, honest process of becoming the person you actually are, not the mask you learn to wear. Individuation is not tidy. It asks for trade-offs. It asks for shedding skins that once fit. It asks for the courage to be misunderstood for a while. Let's bring this to your life right now. Name the thing you are avoiding because you don't want to fail. Say it out loud. Write it down. Then answer 3 questions. What is the smallest visible action I can take in the next 48 hours? What support do I need to make that action easier? What story will I tell myself when it feels uncomfortable? And what truer story will I use instead? Maybe you'll say, I always choke. A truer story. I improve every time I try. Maybe you'll say, people will judge me. A truer story. People are busy. The ones who care will help. Maybe you'll say, it's too late. A truer story. Today is the youngest I will ever be again. Another tool. The courage calendar. Pick one day each week and label it Attempt Day. On that day, you must do something with a real chance of not working. Send the pitch, make the call, enter the room. Your nervous system will protest at first. Over time, it learns we can do hard things and remain safe. Also, learn to close loops. Fear breeds in unfinished territories, the unsent email, the half-written draft, the vague promise. Each evening, choose one loop to close. Completion is fuel. And please hear this. Detours are not defeat. Sometimes the path you start is not the path you finish. Good. Starting reveals information you cannot get any other way. You're not married to your first idea. You are committed to your deepest direction. Let's address a quiet shame, envy. When you see someone doing the thing you long to do, Envy can bite. Don't push it away. Listen, envy is a compass pointing toward your unlived life. Thank it for the information, then convert it into a plan. One step this week, one step next week, repeat. There's another voice we must be careful with. The inner perfectionist. Perfectionism is fear pretending to be high standards. It says if it can't be brilliant, it shouldn't exist. But the world is moved by finished, not flawless. Give us your version 1. Let it be rough, let it breathe. Version 1 makes version 2 possible. Now, a brief reset. If you're still here, it's because some part of you is tired of waiting. If you want more content that blends timeless wisdom with practical steps, subscribe and stay close. Your growth is the mission. Let's finish strong. Time is not an enemy. It is a mirror. It reflects our choices without commentary. Years don't decide our life. Decisions do. And most decisions are simpler than we make them. Not easy, but simple. Do I choose the temporary sting of trying or the lifelong weight of wondering? Ask an older person what they regret. You will hear the same themes. I wish I had spoken up. I wish I had taken the chance. I wish I hadn't waited for permission that never came. This is not a script you must repeat. You can write a new one. Here is your invitation right now. Choose a small, visible risk this week. Tell one person you trust what you will attempt and when. Put it on the calendar. When fear tightens your chest, name it. Say this is the sensation of growth. Breathe through it. Move anyway. When it doesn't go perfectly, and it won't, show yourself uncommon kindness. Kindness is not letting yourself off the hook. It's keeping yourself on the path. Review what happened. Extract one lesson. Apply it to the next rep. That is how confidence is built. Evidence over time. And if you fail publicly, congratulations, you're free. The worst already happened, and you survived. From here you can do anything. Let's bring it home. Failure is a moment. Regret is a slow erosion. Failure asks for a night to recover. Regret asks for a lifetime of explanations. Failure is a scar with a story. Regret is an empty space where a story should have been. Carl Jung's warning echoes. The life you refuse to live will not leave you alone. It returns as restlessness, as resentment, as a question you cannot quiet. There is only one medicine: begin. Begin clumsily, begin late. Begin with a shaking voice and an uncertain plan, but begin. If this message woke something up in you, take one committed step this week and tell me what it is. Subscribe for more honest, practical philosophy and share this with someone who's standing on the edge of their next chapter. Your future self is listening. Give them a story worth remembering. And remember, you don't have to be fearless to change your life. You only have to be willing.